a lot of information about how to recognize a problem and taking that problem to an idea that would generate a business. And then we'll talk a lot about how you identify if the business will be successful, how you will put together a very simplified business plan for the type of business that you want to start. The whole thing starts with entrepreneurship. And you know, maybe all of us have kind of an idea what entrepreneurship is. We hear the word maybe, and I don't know, is it the same word in Ukrainian, entrepreneur? Or is there a different word in Ukrainian for entrepreneur?
No.
It's the same. So when we hear the word, we think of somebody who is independent and they're wealthy, and we always think of maybe Bill Gates or, you know, someone who has been very successful in the internet world. And those people are very rare and few and far between. Most entrepreneurs are people who have a little shop, maybe the bread shop or the place where they sell beverages, or maybe some specialty bicycle shop. These are entrepreneurs. So we're going to talk now a little bit about being an entrepreneur. But do all of you have paper, pencil? Do we have any? I don't have any paper, pencil. But okay. So while you're sitting there, I want you to take about 5 or 10 minutes, and I want you to think about what an entrepreneur means to you. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? And here are some things, some questions that you may want to ask yourself. You know, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Is it because you think you want to be rich, or you want to be able to work when you want to work? Maybe you don't want to work every day of the week and you think you cannot have to work. How should you start? How should your business relate to customers in the community and society? You know, as an entrepreneur, you have a certain responsibility to your community, to give back to your community. So think about that. What does money have to do with it? Is money important in entrepreneurship? So think about, you know, take a few minutes and think about what entrepreneurship means to you. As an entrepreneur, one of the things that you do, and we'll talk a lot about this later, is you solve a problem. That's why you're in business. That's why you start a business, to solve a problem. Maybe you want to help other people. Maybe you want to start a business that helps and supports homeless people, or people who don't have enough money for food, or women who have been abused, or children who have been abused. So you think about these things that are important to you for the reason that you want to be an entrepreneur. So you have to think about, is this really for you? And there's a lot of things that go into being an entrepreneur that's important. So along with entrepreneurship, there's a lot of myths about what an entrepreneur is. So let's talk a little bit about these. The first one, which everybody thinks, is an entrepreneur is born and not made. Well, there's no gene within us that says, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and you're not. An entrepreneur is someone who has the desire that they want to do something. They want to solve a problem. So it's not, you're not born with this, it's something that you create within yourself. Individuals start companies. You'll soon learn that you cannot do much as an entrepreneur without a team. The team is the most important part of your organization. They're the ones that you're going to help support you. The team is the one that's going to make your organization successful. If you try and do it on your own, it will be very difficult and it will not be a success. When you look at all of the entrepreneurs throughout the world who have been successful, they all started with a team. One person may have had the idea, but they did not do it on their own. Entrepreneurs are the smartest people in the room. Not so. Many entrepreneurs who have been very successful never went to university. Some even dropped out of high school. You don't have to be the smartest person to be an entrepreneur. What you have to have is a passion. You have to identify a problem, and you have to identify a logical and reasonable solution to the problem. Leaders are charismatic. Everybody thinks that people who are entrepreneurs, who run big companies, they get along with everybody. They're happy people, and they can go to social gatherings. Most entrepreneurs are kind of introverted, and they're not overly friendly people. They can be friendly, but they're not, that's not what their main goal is. Their main goal is very focused on what solution they've created to solve a problem. They love to take risks. Not so. If entrepreneurs like to take risks, they would live in Las Vegas and they would gamble all the time. They do not like to take risks. Is risk involved with being an entrepreneur? Absolutely. There's a lot of risk involved with being an entrepreneur. But do they like it? No. They're undisciplined. I think this comes from the fact that every time we see a company in Silicon Valley in California where the employees are playing ping pong or they're drinking soda or just lounging around listening to music, we think that they're not disciplined people. Entrepreneurs are very focused. They're very disciplined in what they want to do and what they want to achieve. It may not be reflected on what you see of them, but they are. You have to be focused. You have to want to solve this problem that you identified. So, don't let a lot of these myths stop you from being an entrepreneur. So what really is entrepreneurship? Well, entrepreneurship is the pursuit of an opportunity beyond resources controlled. Pursuit, the actions of an entrepreneur, your drive, your ability to get up when you fall down and to start over again, your focus, your discipline. Again, you have to be focused and disciplined in order to solve this issue or problem that you've identified. The opportunity, the type of venture, a better, cheaper way of doing something that people will want to do. A lot of people think, well, everything that's going to be done has already been thought of. But when they built the car, did they think of electric cars? No, now we have electric cars. Now we're moving towards self-driving cars. So if you think something has already been done and you don't think you can do any more, rethink it. And we'll talk more later about how to do this. Beyond resources controlled. You can't control everything as an entrepreneur. Again, you have to be focused on solving the issue or problem that you've identified. So to be a successful entrepreneur, there's 4 things that you have to be focused on. Or you can lump all of the things that you have to do into these 4 things. Heart, head, hand, and home. It all starts with heart. passion. You have to have a passion for doing something. This passion just can't be fleeting. The passion can't be something that's going to happen 1 minute and then you change your idea. The passion has to be there to help your community, to solve a problem, to do something different. You have to have that passion. The next thing is the knowledge. If you have an idea or you have a problem that you're trying to solve, you should be the smartest person in the world that knows everything about this idea or this problem. Through research, through the internet, through talking to people, you have to gain the knowledge of what this problem is and how it can be solved. Then you've got to get out there and do things. Entrepreneurs just don't sit behind a desk. You have to get out there and get your hands dirty, so to speak. You have to talk to people. Creating this solution to the problem that you've identified is not something that will happen in a day or a week or a month. It may not even happen in a year. It might take 2 years or 3 years. So you're going to have to spend a lot of time in the community talking to people, a lot of time researching. Home refers to the team around you, your support structure. Entrepreneurs fail more times than they succeed. Therefore, they need a support structure of people, family, friends, relatives, who can help pick them up and keep them moving in the direction that they should be headed. So think about these things and kind of get your mind around what you have to do or the realities of becoming an entrepreneur. You know it'll be hard, but you still want to do it. You have to focus on the fact that it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. If it was, everybody would do it. You can't do it alone. You need a team. Teamwork is going to be essential. You're going to have to leave your comfort zone. All of us like to stay in our comfort zone, but to be a good entrepreneur and to solve this problem, many times you'll step outside of that comfort zone and be forced to do things that maybe you didn't think you could do. You'll have to listen to other people. You can't be so focused on your idea that it's your idea and I'm not going to listen to what somebody else says. You may not like what they say. You may not like to hear that you can't do this or it's a bad idea, or listen to everybody. Listen to the good, listen to the bad. I know this will be a lengthy process with a lot of failures. 2 years, 1 year, it's not something that will happen in a month. I understand there's no assurances of success. As I said, most entrepreneurs fail more times than they succeed. Don't wait. Instead, be a wild, adventurous, problem-solving entrepreneur. So, you have a great idea for a business. You're excited to get to work. You come across a similar idea on the internet when you're searching. What do? Do you give up? Do you say, oh, well, that idea has been thought of, I guess I'll move on to something else? What that says, number one, is that you have no passion for your idea, that you really aren't committed to doing it. But the second thing is, you haven't thought about what can you learn from this other person that has already created what he thinks or they think is the solution to the problem that you have. Maybe you can do it better than they can do it. Where does the majority of money come from to start your new business? In Ukraine, it's very difficult to get money to start a new business. Most entrepreneurs have to rely on family and friends, their own savings if they have it. They sometimes have to sell their assets. They have to sell a car, or they have to sell maybe some jewelry. They have to get the money themselves. Banks in Ukraine do not lend to small businesses. Even if they did, you couldn't afford the interest that they would charge you on the loan. So in America, it's much easier because there's a very big focus on small business, and there's a lot of resources for people to get money to start a business. Hopefully that'll change here in Ukraine, because small businesses are the backbone of a community. What's the common characteristic of an entrepreneur? Did they drop out of school? Are they extremely wealthy? Are they great salespeople? Are they resilient? Well, out of all of these, I would say, all of those probably fit, but I would say resilience is the thing. They keep going. They just keep going. They fall down, they get up, they do it again. They fall down, they get up, they do it again. They're very resilient. Which of the following is most important? The idea, the market, or the team? Well, they're all important, but I would pick team. A team is extremely important for you to be successful. Which of the following is true? Entrepreneurs are born, not made. No. Entrepreneurs learn from experience, not school. Sometimes. Entrepreneurs need funding and there's an early startup. No, not always. None of the above? Possible. I think they tell you when it says none of the above, that's the right answer. But whoops. Let's see if this is going to work. Okay, so that's not. So the first thing about being an entrepreneur is you have to have a problem to solve. You can't start a business without trying to solve some problem, regardless of what it is. You start a bread store, what problem are you solving? People need to buy bread. You start a bicycle shop, people want to buy bicycles. You're solving the problem of people, where do you go to buy a bicycle? This is probably the key, is coming up with what problem can you solve? And the key to this is finding a problem that you're passionate about. Because if you just pick a problem out of the air and you have no passion for it, you will not succeed. So a problem well understood is a problem half solved. And I want you to identify problems that you see. So look around and see, in your mind as you're looking at these, think about improvement. What could be done to make it better? No, this exercise is no different than an exercise you would do for something that you're passionate about. Maybe you love cats and you see a lot of cats that don't have homes. And you want to solve this problem. And so, you see this as a problem, and this becomes your passion to work on.
How do you get to be an entrepreneur? Most of the advice focuses on the practicalities, writing a business plan, raising money, finding staff, marketing and PR. We'll go down a different route. In our eyes, at the heart of successful entrepreneurship lies something oddly more abstract, an accurate insight into the causes of human unhappiness. To be an entrepreneur means essentially to become an expert in the things that make life difficult for people. That's because every properly ambitious business is in some way trying to fix things for other people. And the bigger and more original what you're trying to fix happens to be, the more successful your business can be. Because consumer society is now well developed, it may be easy to think that all the big problems out there already have thousands of fixes anyway. Think of all those car companies or pizza outlets or news websites. We surely have enough of everything. What could we possibly add to what's already out there? But to get a sense of the vast opportunities that still remain in capitalism, all you need to do is ask yourself where and in what areas you're unhappy in the course of an average day. Every unhappiness is really a new business waiting to be born. Your frustrations are a nearly inexhaustible source of raw materials out of which the businesses of the future can be built. So while there may already be plenty of breakfast cereals and t-shirts and cell phones and cab rides for sale, there's so much more that frustrates and depresses us. Think of how difficult it is to get on with one's partner, educate children, cope with anxiety, discover what you want to do with your life, find a nice place to live, calm down in the evening. One could go on and on. Our griefs and irritations are endless, thankfully for the budding entrepreneurs. The biggest first step to take towards entrepreneurship is therefore to learn to study your own unhappiness and what might possibly heal it for you and others. When profits decline in businesses, it's really the result of too many people throwing themselves at trying to fix the same area, because they can't think of anything more innovative to do, rather than start a new airline, mobile phone company, or supermarket chain. And by contrast, healthy profits are a reward for understanding and mastering an area of human distress ahead of anyone else. Of course, ideas aren't enough on their own. You need to take care of practicalities and money, but they won't help you if your original psychological insight into human unhappiness isn't sound. And by the same token, if your insight into what makes people unhappy is razor sharp, and your solutions bold, then however difficult the journey, your business will stand a high chance of making money and benefiting humanity too.
So, what is a problem? We all think of problems differently. We think maybe only on the surface of a problem. And as we just saw, most problems are generated through something that irritates us as individuals. And again, those can be opportunities. One person's problem is another person's satisfactory state of mind. What may be a problem for me may not be a problem for you. A problem occurs when there is a difference between what should be and what is. A problem is a discrepancy between an existing and a desired state. What it is today, how can it be tomorrow? A problem expresses the difference between the hope for and the actual situation. And a problem is directly or indirectly related to the overall satisfaction of your target market. So to be a problem, there must be an awareness of the problem. You have to recognize that there is a problem. There must be some reason to act. You want to solve the problem, you have a passion for it, it's really disrupting your community. There's too many cats in the community running around wild. You must have some pressure, some reason to want to act. And then you have to have the resources to solve the problem. That's where entrepreneurship comes in. You are the resource that's going to solve this problem. So what's the cause of a problem? Is the problem a result of people? Lack of resources? Or too many resources? Is it the environment? Is the problem that you're passionate about a cause from pollution? Is it caused from people throwing papers on the ground? What is the problem the result of? So defining the problem, it's key that you can define the problem accurately and that you understand the full scope of the problem. Again, a problem that you see, there may be very good reason for that problem. So you need to understand it completely before you start charging off to try and solve the problem. So what is the problem? Whose problem is it? Is it your problem only? Is it your neighbor's problem? Is it a problem that impacts the entire community? Is it a problem that impacts the entire world? Whosever problem it is going to define, number one, if it's just your problem, well, it's probably not worth an entrepreneurial spirit to solve that. If it's only 4 or 5 people, will you make enough money when you try to solve the problem? If it's the whole world, is it too big to bite? Trying to cure world hunger is too big to bite, but maybe you can cure hunger within your community. Is it worth solving? There's a lot of problems that just aren't worth solving for whatever reason. And it may be very good reasons. Maybe, it's just economically not practical to solve the problem, or there's just not enough resources to solve the problem. So there are some problems that are not worth solving. Is this a real problem or a symptom of a larger problem? Defining the problem is this an older problem? Is this a new one? What's wrong with the previous solution? If there's already a solution to the problem, can you make it better? Does it need an immediate solution? Maybe the problem will go away on its own. What conditions must be the solution? How do you satisfy this? What conditions must be met to satisfy the problem? Will the solution affect something that must remain unchanged? What impact will your solution have on something else? Maybe it's a rippling effect, like you drop a pebble into a lake and you see the rippling. Maybe your solution has an impact on something that really should not be changed. How do you identify the problem? Listen to people. Listen to your friends, your family, your co-workers. Listen to what they're saying. You know, every place I walk, I see trash on the ground. Okay, maybe we need to build receptacles to put trash in. Look around you. Take a walk in your community. You know, as you're walking around your community in an evening, look around. Is there a problem within the community? The lighting may not be good. Maybe the sidewalks need repairing. Maybe the water isn't draining properly. The leaves are on the ground and it's causing it to be slippery. What are the problems as you're walking around your community? What problems do you encounter in your everyday life? Think about the things that bother you every day. Are there barriers to the customers? If there's a problem out there and the solution is using a computer, does everybody know how to use a computer? Think about bankomat. You know, this is the primary source of people getting money today, is to use a bank machine. How many people in their 70s and 80s know how to use a bank machine? How many people 5 years ago in their 70s and 80s knew how to use a bank machine? This is a barrier to solving a problem. Getting my money is what I want to get. This is the problem. The barrier is automation. I don't know how to use it. Determine what customers would adopt this offering if it was easier to use. So think about who's going to use the solution. How many people would use it if it was easier? So, finding the root cause. The goal is to determine the root cause of a problem by asking why 5 times. The problem: I'm failing my university classes. Why? I do not understand the information. Why? I do not attend classes. Why? I cannot wake up on time. Why? I do not have an alarm clock. Why? I'm too lazy to go buy one. So the root cause is you are lazy. So when you see a problem, ask why? 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 Sometimes you'll get to the end in 3 whys, maybe 4. But ask 5 times, why? Why does this happen? Remember, for every problem, there's an opportunity. Any problem that you can identify, there's an opportunity. Once you've identified a problem, the next thing is to refine this problem. To make sure you clearly understand it, to refine it, to get down to root cause. This is where your team comes in. Form a team to help define, refine, or clarify the problem. The team should be made up of not people who have the same ideas as you, because that doesn't help you, because they're just going to say yes to everything you say. You want a team that's diversified. You want a team that will challenge you. You want a team that will challenge your assumption, a team that will challenge your ideas. So that you're not just have 4 or 5 people around that'll say, oh yes, 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 yes. You want someone to say, no, 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 no. How about we think about it this way instead of that way? Gather the data about the problem. Get as much information as you can about the problem. Through interviews with people, sit down and talk to people. People you may not know, people you work with, your relatives, your friends, your family. Maybe you have to form a focus group. You bring in 15 or 20 people from the community and you talk to them. Here's the problem. What do you think? Is this a problem? Would this, if we solve this problem, would it help your daily life? There's qualitative methods for quantifying the problem. And then there's always the internet, which is probably the first source that you'll go to look up the problem. Is the problem in other places throughout the world, in other communities? How are other people solving the problem? Define the problem in detail. This is not the time to be looking for solutions. This is the time to just be defining the problem. Forget the solutions, those will come later. You want to make sure that you completely, and your team completely, understand what the problem is. So one of the key things, once you've identified what the problem is to write a problem statement, because the problem statement will be the primary focus of everything you do going forward. When you get into your brainstorming sessions, to coming up with ideas for solutions, you have to have a problem statement. So a problem statement is 1 or 2 sentences that describe an issue, a need, or a problem for a target customer that you're going to solve. A problem statement is a clear, concise description of the issues or needs to be addressed by a problem-solving team. Your problem statement should be able to be solved. Curing world hunger cannot realistically be solved. Bringing technology to a classroom can. Taking care of and curing world hunger, no, but maybe you can cure hunger within your community. That's a much smaller piece. And that piece then becomes part of the bigger problem of solving. Use a problem statement to focus your team. When you get into team meetings, it's very easy to go in many different directions. Everybody has an idea, everybody wants to be heard. The problem statement will help you focus your team on where you should go and what you should be thinking about and what you should be doing. It keeps you on track for everything that you do, moving forward to coming up with a solution. The 5 W's, who, what, where, when, and why, is a great tool that helps get pertinent information out for discussion. We all use this daily without knowing that we do, but who does the problem affect? Specific groups, organizations, customers, communities. What are the boundaries of the problem? Organizational, workflow, geographic, customer segments. What is the problem? What is the impact of the problem? What impact is the problem causing? What would happen if you didn't solve the problem? Where is the issue occurring? Does it only happen in your community? Does it happen within the entire country? Does it happen in the entire world? When does this occur? When does the problem happen? Is it daily? Is it hourly? Is it only once a month? Is it only when it snows? Is it only when it rains? When does it need to be fixed? Does it need to be fixed now? Do we need to fix it before next summer? Do we need to fix it before next year? And why is it important to fix the problem? What's the end result if you fix the problem? So why is it important to fix it? When developing your problem statement, be careful to ensure that the statement is not too specific or it's not too broad. It's difficult to find a middle ground where your statement is not so specific that you've kind of made it so you can't look at other things, other possibilities, or you've made it too vague that nobody understands it. It's too specific when the statement is crafted in a way that assumes a specific solution, such as, how might we use iPads to bring education to students in remote locations? Well, what has happened here? You've already said how you're going to solve the problem. You're going to bring iPads in. Maybe there's a better solution. Maybe there's something out there that could be better than iPads. Instead, you could say, how might we bring education to students in remote locations? Instead of specifically saying iPads. So don't get very specific. How do we solve the cat problem? Well, we just have shelters for cats. Well, having a shelter for a cat may not be the only solution to that problem. Maybe there's many other solutions to the problem. Allowing multiple solutions allows you to channel your ideas in many different directions. Similarly, the statement should not be too vague. How might we make education more effective? Allows too much variation of interpretation and therefore too many potential solutions. So if you think about making education more effective, look how broad this is. I mean, you can think of a billion ways to make education more effective. So it needs to be much more specific than this. Here are some examples that in the education realm. How might we make high school classroom materials more engaging? How might we develop education that causes to different learning styles, that caters to different learning styles? And how might we bring students together around interest instead of where they live? These are all narrow enough to focus on a specific idea, but yet broad enough where you can come up with multiple solutions. If your problem doesn't exist in real life, chances are your product will not be useful to anyone. So if there's no real problem out there, who's going to buy it? Who's going to buy a solution? You can't just create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist for people. Paul Graham said, why do so many founders build things no one wants? Because they begin by trying to think of startup ideas. The method of operation is doubly dangerous. It doesn't merely yield few good ideas, it yields bad ideas that sound plausible enough to fool you into working on them. A lot of people just get together and say, you know what, we need to start a business. Oh, great idea, let's start a business. What do we want to do? Well, I don't know, it doesn't matter, let's just start a business. Come up with a problem statement that would recognize the problems that you identified in the classroom. I think all of us have been in some kind of a brainstorming session at one time or another in our careers. Sometimes we do brainstorming and we don't know we're doing it because it's not structured. But we get in a room with 3 or 4 people and we all start talking about a problem, and that is kind of brainstorming. But to be effective in brainstorming, there needs to be some structure around how you do this, because it's very easy to get into a room and start talking about many different things. Everybody has a different idea. Everybody has a different direction that they want to go because of how they feel or how they think. So this is where the problem statement helps to structure this brainstorming. So just what is brainstorming? Well, it's kind of a relaxed, informal, structured, and analytical approach to problem solving. There are many forms of brainstorming, which we'll see. A group creativity technique to find conclusions to a specific problem. So the bottom line for brainstorming is it's a group of people who get together to solve a problem. So why do you want to use brainstorming? What good does it do you? Brainstorming provides a free and open environment that encourages everyone to participate. There is no bad idea in brainstorming. Everybody gets to talk. It encourages people to come up with thoughts and ideas that can at first sound really strange or weird or crazy. People will say things that just really, wow, let's send all the cats to the moon. This sounds like a really crazy idea. 50 years from now, it may not be so crazy. I don't know. It increases the richness of ideas explored, finding better solutions to problems. So when you're brainstorming, as I said, it's like having your team in your entrepreneurial environment. In brainstorming, you have a team or a group of people made up of many different backgrounds, many different ideas, many different experiences. All of this adds to the value of coming up with a solution to your problem. These are just a few of the types of brainstorming. Individual brainstorming. You can sit there, you have your problem statement, and you just think about and you write down every idea that you can come up with to solve the problem of air conditioning in this room. It doesn't matter how weird it is, you're not looking for the final solution. As an individual, you just write down every problem, every solution that you could ever think of. It doesn't matter how stupid it sounds, you write it down. Group brainstorming. This is the one that we're all pretty much familiar with. 5, 6, 7 people get into a room, and here's the problem statement. How do we improve the air conditioning in the room? And we start talking. You. And somebody is writing down every idea that comes out. You're not looking for the final solution. As you'll see a couple of times, quantity over quality. You want as many ideas as you possibly can get. You worry about filtering out the bad ones or the not so good ones later on. Electronic brainstorming is just what it says. You do it over the internet. Sometimes this is good because many people are embarrassed to speak up in a group. They think their idea is a stupid idea, or they're just shy. So when you're by yourself and you can be on a computer, you don't have to worry about someone pointing their finger at you or smirking or saying, no, that's a dumb idea. It's much easier, and sometimes people are much more creative. Reverse brainstorming. This is a great tool, and if you've never done this, you should try it sometime. And what this does is, if you take your problem statement and you say, how could we make the air conditioning in this room worse? How can we make it bad? What is the worst possible way we can do it? And you think of all of the ideas of how you can make air conditioning worse than what it is today. And then you take those ideas and you flip them around. Maybe an idea, how to make it worse is we close in the room more. Oh, okay, flip this around, open up the room. Maybe we make it more open. So reverse brainstorming lets you take all of the worst case scenarios. Basically, you would say, how can I make my business fail? How would I do this? And you come up with every idea that you can think of that would make your business fail. And out of those ideas, you turn them around. Be rude to my customers. Oh, turn this around. Be good to my customers. So reverse brainstorming, it's kind of a fun technique, and people look at you like, wow, that's kind of strange. But once you start getting these bad ideas written down and you start turning them around to good ideas, then it becomes much more valuable. Anonymous group is, there's people who are in groups and they just don't know each other. They're just not, each person is given individually the problem statement. Group passing, this is sometimes a good way to go if you don't have a lot of time. You spend 5 minutes and you write down 5 ideas. You then take your piece of paper and hand it to the person on your right, and they look at your ideas and they say, oh yeah, okay, this, and this, and they write down 5 more ideas. They then pass it to the next person. And you just keep doing this until everybody has an opportunity to look at the ideas. And so you're generating ideas from yourself based on what somebody else has said and written down. Questioning is just what it is. Ask a question, have an idea. Ask a question, have an idea. And team mapping. Team mapping is another good exercise where you just, you kind of have a big piece of paper and you have the central idea in the middle and you start mapping out ideas that come up to solve this problem. So as you can see, there's a number of ways you can do this. The bottom line is to generate as many ideas to solving the problem as you possibly can. You're not looking for that one key idea, that one thing that's going to be the magic bullet that's going to solve this idea. You want many ideas. So there's some general rules that you need to follow in brainstorming. You go for quantity. You want as many ideas as you can. You withhold criticism. You don't, You don't say that's a dumb idea. You don't say, oh, we tried that before, it didn't work. You don't make any kind of criticisms. On the other hand, you don't say, whoa, that's a great idea. Because as soon as you say this, everybody stops thinking. And they think, oh, we've already come up with the solution. So you don't want to do overly praise. You don't want to criticize. You want an idea, you want to generate more information about the idea. Then it's maybe someone has an idea and you say, and what else? And what else? Oh, you want to have commercial air conditioning, and what else? Well, maybe we should have windows, and what else? So if you want to bring out more information about a specific idea, and what else? Ask the question. Welcome wild ideas. We're going to tear down the wall. Boy, I don't know if we can do that or not, but that's a wild idea. Combine and improve ideas. You have an idea of windows. I have an idea of tearing down the wall. Well, let's put them together. Maybe we just tear down part of the wall and put in windows. Here are some phrases you want to avoid while you're in brainstorming sessions. It's technically impossible. Basically, all phrases that are negative, you need to avoid. It won't work. It's too expensive. People won't change their behavior. We've already done that. It's been done. You know what? We've done this way for 50 years. Why should we change it now? Why do we want to change it? It's worked good for us for the last 50 years. We don't need to change it. These are any of the types of negative feedback is something you just don't want to do. You want everything to be positive. Again, there's no such thing as a bad idea. As you brainstorm, remember, there's no bad idea. Build on ideas. How might this work versus why wouldn't it work? Write down everything. Somebody should be responsible for writing down everything that's said. So at the end, you have a whole list of any idea that was generated. Again, go for quantity. Forget about quality, forget about this is the best idea. You want as many ideas as you can possibly get. Brainwriting. So in brainwriting, you would ask each participant to take 5 minutes to write down their idea and the problem. This is what we talked about, passing it on. Then you pass the sheet of paper to the person on their right, and they spend 5 more minutes writing down more ideas based upon what they read from the other person's ideas. You continue this process for 10 or 15 minutes, collect all the papers, and post them for immediate discussion. This is a good way if you're in a group of where people don't know each other, and there's maybe 15 or 20 people, and nobody knows anybody, because we're all kind of reluctant to speak up if we don't know what somebody is there. So this is a good exercise to do, and it generates a lot of ideas because no one has to speak up, no one has to stand up and say their idea, which they're afraid someone will say is not a good idea or it's a dumb idea. So if you're ever in a large group and you need to do something in a short period of time, this is a good idea to do. The group's too large, time is limited, it requires no prior experience of brainstorming. And you know, this kind of prevents, we've all been in groups where there's one person who always has to speak. That person knows everything. That person always has the idea. And those kinds of people tend to shut down a good brainstorming session. So this exercise stops people from doing that because they have to write their idea. They can't speak and they can't intimidate other people in the group. So now that you've done all of this brainstorming and you've come up with hundreds of ideas on how to solve your problem, you need to develop a preliminary idea of how to solve the need or the problem, how to fill the gap, and how to take advantage of a trend. Focus mostly on the problem to be solved, not on the initial ideas of how to solve on how to solve it. So you're still focused on the problem, but now you're starting to refine the ideas that you've gotten to come up with maybe several key ideas that will help you solve your problem. And there's kind of a life cycle of opportunity development where you identify the problem or opportunity, you look for a solution, you find your solution, you analyze the solution, you acquire or you create the solution, you install it, you use the solution, you create value for your customer, you get your money, and word of mouth passes along that you've created this solution to a problem. So this is kind of the life cycle of an opportunity. Unfortunately, most people focus on the creating the value and using the solution. They don't spend a lot of time up here in analyzing and acquiring and installing. They want to get right down to it. They want to start making money. But by doing this, what they've done is eliminated a key function of opportunity recognition. You haven't identified the marketplace. You don't know if your product or service is going to be accepted by anybody in the community. You just put it out there. So it's important that you go through all of these steps to create your opportunity. Identify the problem, understand the opportunity, and make the best use of your time, energy, and resources. You always start with your problem statement. Who's experiencing the problem? Is there a different end user than the paying customer? An example is the end user, you might look at a bus. The end user is the person who rides the bus, but the paying customer is the person who rides the bus. The end user is the bus company that owns the bus. What would make the customer more willing to pay more for your solution than another solution? Where's the frustration the largest? And what skills do I have that would give me an advantage in solving the problem? Quantity, not quality. Remember, you're looking for as many ideas as possible. Creativity. What is creativity? It's the ability to create new ideas, to see new possibilities, and make new connections between seemingly unrelated topics. Creative thinking is less an art than a discipline. It is a skill we can learn and get better at with practice. Everyone is creative. Everyone has the ability to create.
My name is Tony Middlebrooks. I'm an associate professor of organizational and community leadership. My doctorate's actually in educational psychology, which is the psychology of how people think and learn. And in my case, a lot of what I learned in my training was how to make people more creative, how to help them become more creative thinkers. Actually, there is a misperception that creativity is something that's inborn and that you can't learn it. But the reality is, everyone can become more creative, in fact, fantastically creative, simply by incorporating a number of techniques and procedures that are out there, as easy as Googling creativity techniques or idea generation on the internet. Every time I teach creativity, I start the class by asking anyone who thinks they're creative to stand up and come to the front of the room. Usually that's about 5 people out of 50. And then I ask everyone, why are you still sitting? And there's a variety of answers. They don't think they're creative. They can't come up with ideas. They're afraid to take risks. But what it boils down to is their belief that they cannot learn creativity and be creative. One of the first things we do is talk about the idea of divergent thinking of many, many ideas from a single problem. If you don't think you're creative, challenge yourself. For example, take a drinking straw and try to think of as many uses as you can for the drinking straw. Then try to think of 50. Then try to think of 100. And once you've hit 100, push yourself even farther. Try to think of 200. I give this challenge to the students in my classes every semester. And they go for 100, they come back, they're very proud. I say, do another 100, it, and they go, oh. But they do it, and they're always surprised. And some of them come back with even 300 uses for a drinking straw. So if you think you've hit your limit, you think you're not creative, push yourself, challenge yourself, and you'll surprise yourself.
So creativity is a key component of problem resolution and coming up with a solution. You have to be creative, or you have to create the creativity within your team or your group. So think of an animal. So we have your company. Lion Rose or Rose Lion?
Rose Lion.
Rose Lion is the name of your company. So remember this. Thinking about what you should sell as the company called Rose Lion, who you're going to sell it to, okay? And how you would do it. How would you sell your product? Okay. Very good, Rose Lion. I think that, so you can see that it's easy to be creative. In 5-7 minutes, you created a company that's going to sell toys and food products to people who have animals. If you sit back and you think, oh, I'm not creative, I don't know, I don't think I could think of any ideas. You spend 5 minutes and look, just as a team of people who don't really know each other, you've created a company, Rose Lion, and it'll be successful. So it's great. So forming your idea, there's a process called ideation. And ideation is made up of idea and generation. So now is the time that you want to start forming the idea of how to solve your problem. Ideation sessions can help you develop new products, strategies, ideas, and just about anything else you can imagine. So ideation is the problem-solving process of this whole entrepreneurial activity that you're going through. Thinking with an open mind and heightened awareness will help you spot more opportunities. Don't close off your mind. Don't get so focused on one idea that you close off all other ideas. Because it was not your idea is not the important thing. The important thing is that you select the idea that's going to solve the problem the best way. Ideation follows opportunity recognition. So once you recognize there's an opportunity, now you have to have an idea of how that opportunity is going to be developed into your entrepreneurial activity. There are many techniques that can be used to think creatively and generate ideas. One technique involves 3 phases: understanding the problem, imagining solutions, and refining it until you find something that works. So these 3 phases of ideation are key. You understand, you imagine, and you refine. Understanding is identify the root cause of the pain. What is the problem? What is the root cause of the problem that you're trying to solve? As we spoke very early on, education is important. You have to understand the problem completely before you can solve it. So understand what the root cause is, the underlying reason that there is a problem. Imagine, be creative. You generate lots of potential solutions. When you're in this phase, you don't care about the final solution. What you care about are many solutions. Quantity over quality. Now you refine it. You pick the best solution that's going to help improve the problem that you're trying to solve. All of these work together. You have to keep these 3 things in the back of your mind as you're trying to solve the problem. Coming up with the best idea that you possibly can. Quantity is quality. So we all have these thought patterns. We all have these ideas that are preconceived. We all have ideas that are there that we don't know that are there. And sometimes those are going to impact the ideas that we come up with. And that may not be a good thing, because what it does is it channels your thinking and your ideas into one area instead of broadening them out. Should always challenge assumptions. If you assume something, challenge it. You challenge it within yourself, challenge it within your team. Why? Why do you think that will work? Tell me more about it. And if you do this, what will happen? Reword the problem. Think about how you can, the problem that you have, how can you reword it that maybe it generates different ideas? Think in reverse. We talked about reverse brainstorming. When you're thinking about Rose Lyon, if you thought about what is the worst possible thing I can do to make my business fail, you think of it in reverse. And those reverse ideas will then become positive ideas. And express yourself through different media. Maybe you're not a person who can speak your idea well, but you can draw it. So draw it, paint it, put it on a board, a whiteboard. Or maybe, you can't draw, you can speak well. So say it. Don't restrict yourself to one media. Don't restrict yourself just to speaking or just to drawing. For every situation, there's a set of key assumptions. Challenge those assumptions, give you a whole new spin on the possibilities. If you want to buy a car, but you can't because you don't have the money for the down payment, you think, okay, I guess I can't buy the car. Well, challenge that assumption. What can you do? Since you don't have the cash at the bank, could you sell something? Do you have something? Maybe you have an old guitar. Maybe you could sell this. You have maybe an old stereo that you could sell. You could sell this. What are some things that you could do, maybe that you could come up with the money? Can you borrow it from relatives? Don't just automatically say, well, I don't have the down payment, so I guess I can't buy a new car. Look at that assumption, challenge it, try and think of different things to solve that problem. In the mid-50s, there was a shipping company that was losing money. They needed to focus on building faster and more efficient ships to get their goods and products throughout the world. Then one consultant defined the problem differently. He said, how can we reduce our cost? And the new problem statement generated new ideas. All aspects of the shipping, including storage of cargo and loading time, were considered. The outcome, now they have container ships, what they call roll-on, roll-off freighters. These big container ships that you see with the big containers on them, this was the genesis of how those were created. Someone was trying to think about how they can build faster and more efficient ships to get goods throughout the world. So, we'll pass through this because we've already done most of this, but some of the, these are some of the ideas that came up when we looked around the classroom. There were no windows, no flowers, no carpet. Everything was white, the paint was all white. There were wires hanging from the ceiling. So these were all problems that prior students identified that needed to be fixed. You have all these ideas, 50, 60 ideas. Now you have to select the ones that will filter down and be the ones to consider and to focus on. So there's a number of ways you can do this, but one good way is fit and potential. How does it fit in with the problem that you're trying to solve, and what is its potential for success? So when you start, you can chart all of the, all of your ideas in a square, where fit is here, potential is there, and you can kind of put, them, here and here and here and here, and eventually you have all of your ideas up there, and here's where you want to focus on. We talked about passion. So, how passionate are you about this idea? The idea that's come up with, the 3 or 4, how passionate are you about them? If If you're not excited about the idea, if you're not willing to jump in with both feet and make this idea work, it's probably not a good one for you. Does the idea solve the problem? Look at the idea, think about the idea, and think about your problem. Does it solve it? Does this idea solve the problem that you have? How enthusiastic are you to solve the problem with this idea? Again, it goes back up to your passion. Does this idea play to your strengths or your team's strengths? If you have an idea that is way beyond your capabilities and way beyond your strengths or the strengths of your team, it's probably going to be extremely difficult to implement this idea, maybe even impossible. Does it have potential? Is it a real solution to a problem versus just a product idea or a set of features? Will this idea solve the problem? Would you be solving a real need? Is there a real need for your solution, for your idea? Because if there's no need for it, why would anybody buy it? So make sure that your idea is solving a real need. Are there enough people who will buy this idea to make it worthwhile? If you don't have a customer base that can be sustained and that you can continuously sell your product to, you're going to run out of business after a while. So make sure that you have a potential client base that's big enough. Are they willing to pay for your solution? Can you differentiate yourself from your competition? Probably every solution to a problem is going to have a competitor. Someone else out there is going to be doing something similar or the same thing. Can you stand up and say, I'm different than this other person or this other company or this other service? And if so, you've got a match. And how scalable is your idea? Is your idea only going to fit a very specific piece of your community? Or are you going to be able to grow it from the community to the state, to the country, to the world? So, when you look at Facebook, Facebook was originally created to solve a problem within a very specific university. How do students communicate with each other? Then it got to other universities. Now where is Facebook? Facebook is worldwide. So how scalable is your idea or your solution to the problem? And maybe you don't want to go worldwide. That's okay. But the limitations that you set on the scalability will determine the profitability. Determine which ideas score high. I showed you up in the top right-hand corner for fit and potential. Narrow it down, get a few ideas. This is where you have to do a lot of research. You have your ideas, now you want to start talking to people. You want to talk to the community, you want to talk to your friends, you want to talk to your relatives. If you're leaning towards one idea, even if it's not the highest rank, that's okay. Maybe it's down here in the bottom left corner or the bottom right corner. If in your stomach, in your gut, if you feel, hey, this is the idea, I know this will work, go for it. It's not cast in concrete. Go for the idea. Just know that it may take a little bit more work in doing something to make this idea happen. So the idea, comes up here. You have an idea that's down here, and you think this is the best one. Why not? But generally speaking, most of the ideas that fall up here are going to be the ones that you're going to start pursuing, you're going to go after, because they've got the highest potential of success. There's no magic formula for the perfect idea. It's important that you're passionate. It's important that you have the ability to execute on the idea, that you can make the idea happen, and that you feel confident in the success of the idea. If you don't have these feelings, chances are the idea is not the right one, so look for another one. Again, there's no perfect idea. Each will have its drawbacks. Every idea has its negatives, it has its positives. Your challenge is to select the best fit for solving the problem. So, How might you identify a potential idea? Customer problems? That aha moment, yes, I got it? Or you're thinking outside the box? Well, it's probably customer problems. Which is the correct order of doing structured brainstorming? I'm not sure if any of these are the ideal, but I suspect this might be it. Identify your interest areas, explore opportunities of the market, and optimize options that fit the potential. Take 15 minutes and brainstorm how to come up with more hours in the day. Nothing is on the table. How do you come up with more hours in the day? We all struggle with this. We're at work, we don't have enough time to do this. As a student, you don't have enough time to study. How do you come up with more hours in the day? So here are some questions you might be asking yourself. Where and when do you get your best ideas? Do you get them while you're sleeping? Do you get them while you're talking to friends? Do you get them while you're socializing? Do you get them while you're riding the marshrutka back to home or work? Where do you get your best ideas? Have you ever been to a foreign country or a major city for the first time? What was that experience like? What caught your attention? Think about the things that you focus on when you do something that's different or outside your comfort zone. A French philosopher said, nothing is more dangerous than an idea when it's the only one you have. It's true. If you only have one idea, it's probably dangerous. You have to have many ideas. An idea is worth nothing until it's been commercialized and there are paying customers. It's just an idea until that happens. So you've got the idea. You now have that solution to your problem. Now you've got to figure out, is that solution going to work? And this is called prototyping. So what is a prototype? It's a rough approximation of what a finished product or service will be. Prototyping is the process of creating that approximation. Simply defined, it is a three-dimensional version of your vision or your idea. Prototyping is not the final solution. It is not the final product. Prototyping is that service or idea that you're testing. You have to be prepared to make changes. You have to be prepared to take criticism. You have to be prepared to think and go back home and rethink the whole thing, the whole prototype process. So what does it look like? Well, it depends on what your idea is. I mean, if your idea is for something on a telephone, a cell phone, it's going to look different than if your idea is a service to the community. Depends on your budget. If you have a lot of money, you can hire a professional company to come and make your prototype for you. If you have no money, you're going to be looking around everywhere to find bits and pieces to build your prototype. Anything you can find, plastic water bottles, styrofoam cups, anything that you can find anywhere to build your prototype. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish with your prototype? It is a handmade prototype, no matter how basic. It is something that you've created yourself typically. It is not the finished product. Don't worry about if it's not glitzy, if it's not the right colors or the edges aren't smooth. It's okay. What you're trying to do is find out, will this thing work? It enables you to test and refine the functionality of your design. If you're creating something that goes on to a telephone or a laptop, if it's a product that's electronic, then you've created something that you want to see, is this really going to work? You might find out if you push this button, the whole thing blows up. So how does this work? It makes it possible to test the performance in various materials. Maybe it works better with plastic than it does with wood. Maybe it works better with metal than it does with plastic. This is the time when you test what kind of materials your product will be made from. It helps you describe your product more efficiently. It's much easier to feel and touch something than it is to read about it. You can read all day what something looks like or works, how it works, but it's much better to be able to hold it in your hand, to touch it, to look at it, to feel it, to experience it. It will encourage others to take you more seriously. If you have a prototype, people are going to know that you're committed to doing something. It's not just some wild idea that you had, and you start talking, well, I'm going to have this little this application on my telephone that's going to do this, this, and this, and people say, yeah, that's great, now let's move on and do something else. But if you have this prototype, you say, hey, look at this, I want to show you how this works, and how this is going to save time and money, but people are going to take you more seriously. So you make your product, you make a drawing of your idea. If you know how to use computer-aided design software, CAD software, it's good. It'll make it much better and much easier for you, but most of us don't know how to do this. Modeling programs for 3D versions, again, many of us don't have access to this type of technology or know how to use it. Make a plan how to make a workable model of your invention. Write down all the materials, what you think this thing should be made of. You need buttons, you need metal, you need plastic, you need glass. What is it that you need that's going to make this prototype? Create a handmade version. Piece together this thing any way that you can find with materials that you can find anywhere, maybe on the street or in the trash or your neighbor or your friend. It doesn't matter. Make this out of any kind of materials you can find. If you can make your own prototype, do it. But if you have the money, use a professional firm. There's many people out there that are artistic, and this is the thing that they do. They can, but it costs money. Perfection is not your goal. This is a one-time thing, is to test it to see if it's going to work. It's the preliminary version. So how do you test this? Well, you expose it to as many people as possible. Show as many people as you can. This is how it works. Expect feedback. Expect people to say things about it. The color is wrong. The functionality just doesn't seem right. It should say this message. This works great. I like the way these numbers look. Seek honest feedback. Don't be so tied into this that when someone says something negative, you shut down. Be prepared for negative comments. Make notes of all the comments. Write down everything everybody says. Because when you get back home, you want to look at all of these notes and make changes to your prototype and then go back out and do it all over again. As I said in the beginning, this is not a process that will take a week or a day. It will take a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. Don't be in a rush. You want to get it right. Don't try to make changes on the fly. If I say, this button should be over here, don't try and take it apart and put the button over there. Hey, good idea. Write it down. When you go back home, try it and see if it works. Go home, rework the prototype, re-engage, start all over again. Keep the problem and solution in mind. Don't try to cure world hunger. Again, start off small. You can always go big. So you've got to choose a business model that fits. When you've got your prototype done, what is the business model now that you're going to create? How does it fit your idea? Oops, sorry about that. You got the scale of the problem. The problem of weather, natural disasters. You got frequency of rain. Is your problem that you're going to solve? Is it scalable to an individual, a group of individuals, or the world? What kind of a business will you have? Will it be, like a Fitbit, which is, the band that goes on here to tell how much exercise you've done? Will it be, like Instagram, or will it be like Uber? Think of the business type that you need to have so that your product can be out there in the market space. Choose an area of interest for you. The interest area is going to create not only the product that you have, but it's going to create how you distribute the product. Is your area of interest in energy, community services, education, mobile technology, lifestyle, consumer, health and wellness? What is the area that interests you so that you can create this business opportunity? Again, the scale of the problem, is it you, the community, is it the world? Is it a problem that just exists in one very specific location? Then you consider the scale and the size of the problem, of the business that you're going to have. Is it just going to be out of my home? Is it going to be out of a storefront? Is it going to be out of several storefronts? Is it going to be door-to-door selling? How big, how small, how can you start? And all of this will depend on the resources that you have available, money, people. All of these resources will determine a lot of this. There are three main categories for businesses. You have products that you can sell pretty much anyway, i.e. the Rose line. You have software solutions that are sold through telephones or computers, and you have services, which can be sold either directly to the consumer, face-to-face, or you can do it via telephone through service call centers. But typically, your product or service is going to fall within one of these three areas. Here's a couple of ideas. A nonprofit to help people with autism to find meaningful careers, crowdfunding for organic farms in Africa, creating a resource for homeless to get free clothes. Remember, for every problem, there's an opportunity. They are endless. Any problem you can think of, there's an opportunity to solve that problem, thus an opportunity to be an entrepreneur. The three things every business needs. You need something to sell, you need someone to sell it to, and you need to make money. Without these three things, you don't have a business. Businesses don't fail, products fail. You read statistics that 80% of all new startup businesses fail. That's not true. 80% of new products that are introduced into the market fail. It's not the business that failed, it's the product that failed. The business plan versus the business canvas. Really one thing that you have to do to create your business, and you have to have a plan. Whether this plan is a full-blown business plan or it's a business model canvas, such as I just handed out, is kind of up to you. And it depends on what you're going to use the business plan or the business model canvas for. Business consultants refer to the business model as a company's foundation and the business plan as its structure. So the business model canvas, which is what I handed out, is an abbreviated business plan. It's much easier to work with. It doesn't require a lot of paperwork. Business plans, can run up to 50, 60 pages long. This is one page. Now, it's better if you can do this on a big sheet of paper that's on a wall, and you can create these 9 blocks there, because then you can take little sticky notes and you can put them all over the board. As you can see, there's the business model canvas, there's a business plan. There's a lot more involved with a business plan than there is with a business model canvas. Typically, a business plan is used, especially in America, to get money, to funding. So if a company wants more money or they need additional startup money, they will have to have a business plan to take to a bank or to some funding source to show them exactly what they're doing. The reality is that most people don't read business plans. They read the executive summary, and that's it. They stop there because their business plans are very detailed, they're very boring, they're dry, and they've got a lot of information. So the business model canvas, or the lean canvas, which is what you're holding, it has 9 different sections in it. And we'll go through each one of these. Why do we have the business model canvas? Well, it's more visual. This gives you at one glance a picture of the entire company. It's more dynamic. It can be moved, It's not something that's fixed. You can move things around. As I said, it's better if you can put a chart on the wall and you can move sticky notes around. It's about action as well as thinking. As you'll see as we go through this, of these 9 squares, some of them are action, some of them are thinking. It's about key activities more than the results. A business plan talks about the results of your company, where it's going to be in 3 years or 5 years. This is more about the activities to create your company. It can be used as a precursor and brainstorming tool for developing a business plan. It focuses on the value proposition in the customer segment. It's easy to work with as a team. It helps promote discussion and understanding. The business model canvas, as I said, has 9 areas, and you typically start from this side here and work this way. And as you can see, it's kind of divided in half, and the revenue structure is here, and the cost structure is here. These are the things that cost, these 3 things here. These are the 3 things that generate revenue. This in the middle applies to both. So it's very logically laid out. The customer segment. The customer segment is probably the key portion of this. And this is where you identify who you're going to sell your product or service to. And the customer segment can be very broad. You know, you have to look at the customer background, you have to look at their lifestyle, you have to understand their behavior, you have to understand their wants, their needs, and their desires. You have to fully understand your customer. This is one of the key areas of this whole canvas. You can identify 3 or 4 user segments of the customer segment, but it's important that you focus on 1 or 2 instead of the entire mass. Unique value proposition. There's a whole segment of how to create a unique value proposition, but in essence, the unique value proposition is twofold. 1, it is the promise that you make to your customers as to what you're going to deliver to them. We're going to deliver the best pet food and pet toys that you've ever seen in the entire world. It's also the way that you're going to look at delivering your product. It's the value that you place on your product, and it's the way that you stand out above your competition. So as a value proposition, how am I different than everybody else that's selling pet supplies or pet food? How am I different? Why will somebody come to my store and buy a pet toy instead of going to his store to buy a pet toy? So this unique value proposition is what your promise is to your customer. Distribution channel. This is extremely important as to how you're going to get, number 1, people to know that you have a product or service, how you're going to deliver this product or service, and how you're going to sustain your customer base. How do you deliver what you have? What is the most important piece of the delivery process? Understanding how you deliver your product, whether it's a storefront, whether you deliver it to their home, whether it's delivered through the computer, whether it's delivered through the telephone. Understanding how you distribute your product or service is key. Your customer relationships. This is something that I've found is not too prevalent in Ukraine. It doesn't appear to be important for people to follow up on a sale or a customer service. Customer relationships are the thing that's going to make repeat customers. It's the thing that's going to make people want to come back to your store or to your service. If they had a bad experience online, why would I go back and do this? Many of us have used an online tool that's been terrible, and we just delete it and never use it again. If you go into a shop and they treat you badly, they don't give you the right change back from your money, from your purchase, why would you go back? Customer relationships are important for repeat business. Your revenue stream, how are you going to make money? This is probably why you're around. This is why you have a business. You want to make money. The revenue stream, it gets into a lot of things about profit and loss and all the financial information, but it's more important to understand where is your money coming from. And this is offset by your cost structure, obviously. If your cost structure is higher than your revenue stream, you have a problem. So you would hope your revenue stream is higher than your cost structure. The key resources. What do you need to make your business work? Is it just you? Do you need more people? Do you need more money? Do you need a physical plant? Do you need a building to do your product in? Is that going to cost you money? How are you going to pay for the building? How are you going to pay for the lights? Do you need intellectual capital? Do you need people who are smart? Do you need someone who knows how to do programming because you don't? So you think about all of the resources that you need to make your business successful. Your key activities. What do you need to do to get your business started? Well, I need to find a storefront. I need to find a supplier of pet food and pet toys. I need to buy shelving. I need to paint the inside of the store. What activities do you have to do in order to make your business successful? Partners. You may have to partner with someone in order to make it happen. You may partner with a pet food manufacturer, someone who manufactures pet food. You sign a 6-year contract saying you're going to buy 1,000 kilos of pet food a year. But who are these partners that you need to deal with? And your cost structure. Here's where a lot of people fail because they don't take into account some of the hidden costs that will eventually creep in, and now your cost structure becomes greater than your revenue stream. So sit down, think of every cost that could possibly be, including your own time and money, all of the overhead you have for a physical location, your supplies, everything that you could think of that's going to cost you money to make this business run. Okay, so in contrast to this is the business plan. And the business plan talks about what will happen in the future. It doesn't talk about right now. It talks about how your company is going to be structured in the future. What's going to happen 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now. It helps you figure out how much money you will need. It's a much more detailed plan financially to let you know how much money you will need to make this business succeed, not only to start, but for the next 5 years. It helps keep your mission in focus. Because this is such a detailed plan, it helps you stay focused on where you're going with your business. There's a huge section in a business plan about competition. And this helps you understand the competitive market in which you're operating in. Maybe there's 15 other pet food stores out there. You need to understand that competition. It defines a sales and marketing strategy. As you can see in the lean canvas, there's no sales and marketing strategy. But if you don't have a sales and marketing strategy, regardless of the product, you're going to fail. How are people going to know that you exist if you don't have that? And it projects future revenues and profits. The advantages are multiple for this. And again, it depends on what your focus is and what you're looking to do. You need to borrow money? Do you need additional people to join your company? If you were looking to hire me to run a specific department, you would give me your business plan so I could understand the whole company. But primarily a business plan is used for investors, people you want to influence to give you money. The advantages, again, are many. It goes on, it helps you understand all of the risks involved because it's much more detailed. And it's a much more in-depth look at the total environment that your business is going to function in. So there's 8 key elements within a business plan. The executive summary, as I said, is probably the thing that everybody reads the most. You read this and everybody forgets all this other stuff here. The executive summary is the last thing that you write in a business plan. You do everything else 2 through 8, then you do number 1. It may be the first thing in the plan, but it's the last thing that you write. And again, you've got market analysis, the company overview, service, marketing, sales, funding, and financials. Is it obsolete? Yes or no? Some people would say we don't need these. We don't need a business plan anymore. Again, it depends on what your needs are. So let's put this all together, and then we'll have a fun exercise. You would start here, empathy. You know, we talked at the very beginning about your passion and your desire to want to solve a problem that you see out there. So you start with, you know, the heart, the mind. You have to start with being empathetic. You have to start with the passion. Then you define what is the problem. What is this problem that I'm so passionate about? And as we saw, defining the problem is not so easily as saying, well, everybody's hungry in the world. We need to define the problem so that we can create our problem statement. Then we need to come up with an idea to solve the problem, ideation. How do we solve this problem that I'm so passionate about? And again, you're going to do this through various means, through brainstorming. You're going to come up with hundreds of ideas, and then you must narrow it down to 1 or 2 very specific ideas or solutions to your problem. Then you build a prototype. You've got to figure out what this thing's going to look like, whether it's a product or service. What does this thing look like that I'm going to solve my passionate problem with? You're going to, whoops, sorry about that. Then you're going to test it. And this testing process may take 3 or 4 times. You go out, you test the product or service, come back, you refine it, then you test it again. Come back, you refine it, then you test it again. This is not something that's going to take, just one time and say, okay, I've got it. I know this is the way it's going to work. And then, you may have to start all over again. Go back around through the circle. But as you can see, this whole thing starts out with your passion to solve a particular problem in the world or your community. And identifying that problem is typically going to start with you, but it may start with your team. Coming up with the ideas, it's going to be your team. How do I solve this problem? Through brainstorming, through talking to people, talking to relatives, talking to friends, family, the community, co-workers. I see this problem out there. What do you people think about this? Do you think this is a problem? Oh yeah, this has been a problem for a long time. And you just, keep talking. Now you know you've got a problem. Now you write your problem statement. Then it's the coming up with ideas through the brainstorming process. So this whole process can keep going around and around until you finally have come up with the final solution. Okay, so now what we do, you have your company, right, which is Rose, lion, almost like bear. I'd like you to use the sheet that you have, and you can use only one and get in a group, and start filling this out, okay? So go through, let's go through back here. Go through and write, who are your customers going to be? Think about all pet owners. The customer relationships, the channels, how you're going to deliver the product, your revenue stream, your value proposition. we're going to have the best product and service out there. The activities that you need to get your business started, what resources will you need to get your business started, and who will you have to partner with, and then what expenses will you have.
Very interesting.
It was a show farm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's, it's something that is very common today to use this lean canvas. It's kind of one of those things that's been done in Silicon Valley a lot for new startups. And, it's fun to work with because it's easy. And again, it's one of those things where you put up on a board, is make it bigger, and then you can use little sticky notes to move things around as your team brainstorms through this. So it's a good tool to use. Okay, so let's start out with customer segment. Okay, very good.
That's our basic content.
So, this was a very quick exercise, and to do this properly, obviously, if you're doing your own company, you're going to spend many days going through this. You'll spend, 2 or 3 days on one square instead of 5 minutes or 2 minutes. But as you can see, it's a good exercise to get you thinking. And if you're looking at starting a company, this is an exercise that you want to go through, you must go through to be successful. The business plan, again, is something that you can use if you really want to get in depth with your company and start talking about competition and talking about all of the financial of your organization for the next 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. And it requires you to kind of sit and think about how you're going to make money, how you're going to expand your business. Are you going to start selling to farmers? Are you going to start selling to circuses? How are you going to expand your business? Again, we put it all together. What did we learn today? We started out talking about what is an entrepreneur and some of the things that it takes to become an entrepreneur. And we talked about the myths of entrepreneurship and some of those things that people automatically think of when they think of an entrepreneur, that they're born and not made, and that they're outgoing people. We talked a lot about the brainstorming and how that helps generate your ideas. We talked a lot about how you identify the problem, that you have to have the passion to solving this problem. And this has to be a problem that not only affects you individually, but maybe affects society as a whole. Talked about idea generation, how to generate the best ideas, and again, through the brainstorming functions. What kind of a business model is best for the business that you want to start. And then we talked about the business plan and the business canvas. So, live in the future, then build what's missing, or seems interesting. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.